Hello, everybody. So this is the end of day one of Wall Street Bets, or I guess Redacted Live now. Thank you all for sticking around. My name is Sam. I'm the co-founder of Swivel, and I'm very honored to be here today to moderate this panel with these esteemed panelists here to my left. So I will let everybody introduce themselves and give a little one-liner, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Hi, my name is Juan from GNOT. I'm the founder of the company, the world's first finger vein verification hard wallet. Nice to meeting you.
Hi, my name is Clara Tsao. I'm the founding officer of the Filecoin Foundation. We're the world's largest decentralized storage network, and we've been around since 2014.
My name's, is this a good distance? I think this is good. My name's Remy. I'm a co-founder of Nuco. We make AI media with crypto communities.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody. Well, our panel is called Building on the Blockchain. So I thought it'd be great to start with a framing question here that I will ask of all the panelists together. And the question is, when people hear building on the blockchain, I think half people probably think infrastructure and half think speculation. So in one sentence, what does real building mean in 2026?
I think to define the problem and solve it through the real blockchain technology.
So real world use cases, okay?
I had a longer answer to this.
Please go.
I think it's challenging to answer that without context, but we as an ecosystem have been through 4 market cycles, bear and bull, over the last few years, and we've seen everything at its front, at its peak bull. And there's been cycles where it's very pure speculation and product and building really didn't quite matter. I think right now in 2026, I was just coming back from the World Economic Forum in Davos. You saw bankers sit across the table from crypto companies and CEOs, and really this path to real institutional adoption. And I think building not just means building cool projects that people are using, but it means also how we can scale those systems and projects to systems that truly didn't even think crypto was a real thing maybe a decade or two ago. So
I would say it was less than a decade or two ago that people thought that crypto wasn't a real thing. Absolutely. Remy?
I mean, in the intersection of infrastructure and speculation, I think it's interesting to watch us. This isn't a sentence either. I'm going to Clara it a little bit, and I did not go to Davos. I think it is interesting to see people try to build in a direction that does not include finance, because in a lot of ways that ends up being difficult because we are a part of a financial system. And so I think that although the building on the blockchain, its only value should not be speculative value, because that's just a lie, an assumption, a hypothesis of the future. The value needs to exist outside of what this may be, but we need to understand that the ecosystem that we work in is a financial ecosystem. And so I think there are times when we try to say, we're using the blockchain for only this thing. Like, and it, of course, like the use cases around privacy, around its use as a distributed ledger, as the world computer, et cetera, is really valid and useful. But the people that propel that ecosystem and the people around the world that talk about crypto are talking about finance. And so I think, it will always be a part of it, and it's an unavoidable kind of like devil that lives inside of the infrastructure.
I love those answers. Do you have something else, Juan?
I was naive. If I can add more, I think if you really decided to apply blockchain to build, and then you need to figure out at least 10 times value compared with the cost of the current your existing the infrastructure. Then is if you can think it's worth to invest to develop and upgrade. Otherwise, I think it's not building, just rebranding.
I agree with that, and kind of Clara, what you said. 2026, I would say is. and I got a big feeling for this at Token in Singapore a few months ago, is that we were really entering kind of this builders phase where it's no longer just speculation or what could be, it's what is, right? And actually building these real world use applications in finance and otherwise on the blockchain, I think is what's so interesting. So another question to you guys, to the whole panel here. So where's blockchain clearly outperforming traditional systems today in production, not in theory, right? Like, what do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I'll give an example. I think there's so much that blockchain can do that you just can't do with existing Web 2 tech. Obviously, I'm going to talk about decentralized storage here because that's what Filecoin does. But last week, we announced a partnership with the Premier of Bermuda to back up all of Bermuda's government data, a subset starting in a pilot on Filecoin. And the reason why is because when you think about a single point of failure when it comes to data centers, most people realize how that is unfortunate in the last few months with the AWS failure, with the Cloudflare failure, when key data files can't be accessed. And for us as the Filecoin network, we built enough storage capacity in the first 2 to 3 years of our mainnet launch than AWS did in 6 years at much quicker speeds, right? So those are, just pure facts around what a decentralized community can do that is so much more significant than, a centralized monopoly owning all your data or a centralized company building infrastructure and technology. You can also look at this in the sense of open source software. We're a big open source ecosystem where everything's transparent. And for many years, the Microsofts and big tech were so skeptical what open source really could be. And now everyone's using it. Like the best models out there are all open source and they're all community driven. I think people purely understanding the ethos of blockchain is, the most transparent means of building today on the architecture of the web. I think understanding that key line is so important, and you can do so much more than what you can do standalone within a company.
I think the payment system, which is using the blockchain technology.
No, 100%. When you can send money in seconds as opposed to hours or sometimes days with international wires, as we all know, right?
Especially third country, which they, where they could not develop enough in current IT technology. And there are some take advantage to reduce the payment remittance cost and fee. And at the same time, biometric, the medical purpose and database in blockchain as well. And then also RWA, real world asset, is the, they're just a fractional ownership with art and real estate and the things and really happening right now.
You can actually use it to prove ownership, right? So we're not far from your car deed or your house, deed, right? Whatever, just being on the blockchain, because then it can't be fake, obviously. So, cool. Remy, any thoughts on this?
As far as things that are proven, I think one that is the most strongly proven and is probably proven by the fact that this exact conference exists and that this guy's head is here is this community building, is the ability through distributed systems, through distributed finance, through the ability to align incentives with a community of people without an intermediary, the type of passionate, aligned communities that can achieve things like what's been talked about here, and even things that are way dumber, like way weirder. And I mean, that Wall Street Bets guy I learned about from the subreddit before I would ever imagine that they would be in a room like this. And it was a bunch of people being ludicrous. And they were aligned together under one particular idea. And every blockchain, every protocol, every IP that's built in the space has a way of bringing people together and pushing the thing forward that is not really possible outside of the crypto space. And I think that's 100% provable.
I agree completely, and I think that sometimes I even myself get lost in the thoughts of, this is such second nature to us because we work with this every single day, and understanding that the rest of the world, we're in nascent stages. We're just getting started with everything with all this technology. We were talking about Napster backstage here and what that kind of turned into ultimately, right? So, we're excited to see what it kind of turns into in the future here. So, okay, so a few direct questions. So Juan, question for you. Where have you seen blockchain actually win in real businesses?
I think the biometric technology as well, like payment through the verification side in the blockchain technology with AI, deep learning and large learning program as well, and the pattern of your fingerprint and finger vein and your iris and all kind of face recognition and everything is using the blockchain right now, and the payment as well. So I think that the more the AI development growing up, then the more the cheaper and faster and rider through the blockchain technology, and the people, customers, in using their payment system is easier and faster and cheaper. So I think the payment side is the real winner.
That's the real.
Of the, yeah.
So if that's the real winner now, then I'll ask you the counter question. What businesses should not be built on the blockchain right now?
I think it's pretending, as I told you, I brought some cost, or if your current system is no problem, no risk, there is no reason to change. Sometimes, in order to make a more attraction for investors and customer, we are using the blockchain technology, and then something like you get some more the technical things attract people, but I don't think it works anymore.
So what do you guys think is the biggest blocker for blockchain right now? Is it regulation? Is it culture? Is it UX? Which is something, what do you guys think? What is the biggest blocker right now?
I think it's actually a big misunderstanding when people group everything in blockchain into one lump.
Sure.
Because there's obviously...
For the sake of this panel.
We can say stable coins, they care the most about regulation right now. And people who are building infrastructure like us, we're really caring about people taking crypto as a narrative seriously, so that the infrastructure we're building, customers take that seriously and don't necessarily see it as a speculative asset the same way they think about other chains. So I think there's actually a broad-based digital literacy that needs to happen, because we're surrounded by it every day. But I would say crypto is already a mix of so many sub-industries, right? Like we've seen the NFT market in 2022 go off in its own sub-community. You've obviously seen so many other communities like DeFi-only conferences. So I do think it's really helpful that when we talk about crypto, we're not lump summing it, because there are so many different challenges that impact different arms of kinds of people that are working. This panel is a great example of just so much diversity of builders building on the blockchain in very different ways.
I mean, I guess it's kind of, my answer is kind of on the UX front, but it's like the user experience of clicking to make a transaction is like actually pretty good and can be abstracted really well, and it's not really so much of a problem. I think if there were to be a blocker, it's like a psychological part of the user experience where we are all nerds who basically like databases. Like we're here to talk about like distributed databases. And so we think like, why does my mom not want to talk about it? And it's like when I first started working in conjunction with AI, it was like pre-Transformers, pre-ChatGPT, and it was like listening to those guys talk. I was a product lead, and I had AI guys, and they talked about NLU and NLG, and it was all like, good job, nerd, like hopefully you make it work. And I learned a lot, and I actually got really into it, but it wasn't like the thing that I was trying to accomplish. And then you have a moment when GPT 3.5 comes out and people are like, oh, I can talk to the thing and it responds and it answers my question. They don't care about transformers, and they never will, and they never want to. And I think a lot of the user experience problem is that we're like, we come with our values, and we come with the things that we want to solve for the world. And it makes it difficult, because when that's not the value of the user, they need a different value. And when we're giving them the user experience that aligns with what we believe and not with what they need to accomplish, we end up with a problem.
I think, to your point, that's where it's been it was lacking for a few years, and I think it's really catching up now, right? Where that Web 3 user experience almost feels natively Web 2 to some people, or Web 2.5, and what some folks would say, and it's becoming more intuitive in that sense.
Yeah, I was looking at this game. I think it was built on Solana, and there's a bunch of users saying, "What? No one told me this game was crypto," because they gave crypto awards for sleeping.
Right.
And you can just see like everyday users not even realizing that invisible layer of them using blockchain technology in a normal mobile application.
And the data sets that they're collecting for
Yeah.
the rewards that you're getting in exchange,
Exactly.
obviously, right?
So-
I have some different approach. Regulation in UX is also kind of the critical point, but the first impression of the blockchain or crypto thing is other some of technology like AI. Let's say we immediately know the word of AI and the product and service, we can directly experience what it is. But
Instant gratification.
the first impression of the blockchain and crypto is the scam or gamble, or it's a big bad some situation. That's why blockchain technology is the people, normal people, they don't understand what it is exactly. So they need some experience more the product level in daily life. Then they eventually they know what is the UX and what is the easier and the convenient and the safe. They need to get the more, and then industry should launch more the product through the based on the blockchain technology.
And that's kind of what I was saying, what I was seeing, and met so many people a few months ago in Singapore, because that's everyone's working and building and actually like shipping products that I'm like, oh, this is really freaking cool. Like we have finally come to this point of like mainstream normalization, it feels like, and I think we're all of us in this room, obviously, and beyond, are hopeful that that's kind of what's going to take here. Okay, so let's move on to the question. So Clara, Filecoin was built through has been built through multiple cycles. What does it take to create decentralized infrastructure that actually lasts?
Yeah, so I think the thing about infrastructure is it takes a long time to build. And a lot of people really think about crypto in short cycles. So every time I'm at a conference, everyone goes, "What's new with Filecoin?" And my actual answer normally is the same thing that we set out to do back in 2014 when the white paper was written, and 2017 when it was published to the public, right? We wanted to build the world's largest decentralized storage network that included the first phase of having data centers all around the world, where users who wanted to offer storage on their data centers could build up as much capacity. And we build up, the largest capacity of data centers all around the world. And now we're kind of in the second phase of looking at clients interested in storing and using that data. But we really pioneered a new space, which is really called decentralized physical infrastructure, DPIN. There's a ton of other DPIN projects that have kind of followed our model since we started. But what really it takes for infrastructure to succeed in crypto is that it just takes time. And you're going against incumbent industries that aren't just, it's like shipping software is easy, but if you're dealing with hardware, there's just a lot more additional time that's needed. So, for us, it's that full, but also really thinking about 5 to 10 years in advance, right? By the end of 2026, some people estimate that 80% of new content on the web are all AI generated. And we're really thinking about this demand that we're seeing where a lot of people want a more modular approach to how they store data. They don't want to have to sign up for a single subscription, and then they're already building a lot of decentralized apps. You can build and vibe code so many apps these days. So we're really thinking about what the storage look like in an AI world where content becomes stored or even created by AI agents. And we're already starting to see that agent-to-agent model within crypto. I don't think it's actually been as used in everyday yet, but obviously AI is everywhere these days. So, the thing about infrastructure is it's like any kind of traditional industry. You have to take the innovative arm, but you also have to remember, like, there are real people putting up money to run data centers, running these businesses, and it just takes time for certain things to happen, and it's not overnight the same way you can ship code and suddenly have a website pop up. But patience is key, and belief in the mission is key, because you really do see transformative ways to actually get a network up like ours, and be able to have this really great moment this year where we've been able to allow for really great retrieval of data, and also storing across 18 different verticals of storage, right? Everything from large archival data sets to hot storage, being able to build out that app store layer where we can see different startups and applications built on top of our technology.
That's really cool. I love that. Thank you. Okay, Remy, from a builder's view, what's the biggest mistake teams make when they say, we should put this on the blockchain? I mean, we've all heard this a million times. We should put this on the blockchain. What is that from a builder's perspective?
Well, I mean, if you just want to be honest about it, the biggest mistake is they're just trying to extract money from people. That's like, there's no reason to go through all, like, as someone who worked in Web 2 software for a long time and then moved to Web 3 software, it's way harder. Why would you do it? The only reason you would do it is because there's a chance you get a chart and it goes, whee! Or like Juan was talking about, you can go to an investor and say, blockchain, and then they're like, +10. You know, like you have to be building in the space because of the values of the space or the values of the technology that is allowed to you by the space. And then, to the point that was just given, you can build through any cycle, because the thing that you're doing is important, and the value of it lives outside of maybe what the market is valuing it at that moment. And so then when something goes red for a little bit, it doesn't like break your heart, because you're not living on that chart, you're living in a mission. And so like there are an infinite number of things that are probably more valuable and more useful, especially as we move into the world where everybody has 10 agentic CIA agents watching their every move and manipulating their mind all the time, and all of their data is available to that. So I think it will become more necessary for us to continue to survive as a free community. But it has to have that. It has to have that why, and defining that why is like I would be the richest guy in all of crypto, because I could create every company. So I can't tell you what that is for each individual person, but the reason to not do it is number go up.
Yeah, and we actually host these founder salons with different founders in our ecosystem to really help them get away from this crypto casino mindset where they get rich and then they feel really unfulfilled because they realize they're not actually solving a hard problem, right? And it's really easy in crypto because of the way economics works that you just get stuck in short-term thinking, and we teach our founders how to think in multiple decades, right? You can even look at NVIDIA early on. Was not doing well for many years, but that was because they were building stuff that just took time to get to the right moment in history. And so I think that's really important, is going back to what Remy was saying, value system of the culture and why people build. And there are so many incredible builders in crypto that really want to make world-changing technology that they can do much more efficiently and better with crypto rails.
I agree with that. So then I'll pose a question to all three of you guys. Are we still overbuilding infrastructure and underbuilding applications?
I think we're underbuilding useful or fun applications. At this point, once again, I can't tell you all the infrastructure that we may need. I think we have a lot of the foundation, and I think that infrastructure is a lot of that last question where people are like, I'm going to launch an L1, I'm going to launch an L2, and then the FDV of that token is like 2 billion, 3 billion, and it's like, what did that ever do? Who actually used it? What the hell is it for?
The answer is nobody.
Yeah. People farming the token drop.
Right.
They'll use it a lot. But I think that we have a lot of applications too, but a lot of the applications are applications, it's all a part of that last question, I think. It's like there's a lot of applications that are actually quite easy to use and maybe somewhat fun, but are predominantly used to farm the thing from the last question, And I think that like speculative financial cycle, although I think it's really powerful and it's really good and it can create a lot of value for people who otherwise couldn't get it through their belief and their participation in something that they otherwise couldn't participate in. I think that when that lives in the place that it does for us, and it changes lives in the way that it does, you end up with a lot of nothing code. You have a lot of nothing applications. And like the stuff that the people here on stage are doing, you know, I didn't even know what a finger vein was before I talked to Wong backstage. And like the
fascinated by what Juan is building. Fascinated.
There are a lot of applications that deserve to be on crypto that are not, and there are a lot of applications that are on crypto and don't deserve to be. So I guess
for the wrong reasons, essentially.
I think
Oh, go ahead.
we just went through the dark era of the crypto and blockchain, and then now it is really the critical time. The investors and capital must more kind of put in to wake up the real kind of genius developers and the people who want to join, like AI. And then the more people invest, and then the more the new product is launched and they can use more, then it's the infrastructure is building, keep doing this, and then we can finally meet the ecosystem.
I agree with that. Well, Clara, you were just talking about how you guys were building infrastructure first to support everything that you're doing now. So, yeah, curious to hear your response on this.
Yeah, I think I don't like the question because I think we kind of need both. But the way to think about it is actually how do we measure real businesses wanting real demand from both applications and infrastructure? Because at the end of the day, we have to build what people want and also what's useful. And I think the heart of your question is really asking, are we building a bunch of junk in between? That's just noise, right? And one of the things that we've done recently, just this week, is look at our strategic priorities. And a metric like we want 100 people downloading or using this wallet is not useful. We want 100 sustainable businesses that are going to be here 2 to 5 years from now that are using our product. And how do we filter for those kinds of users in the blockchain space, right? So and it doesn't matter if it's an application or infrastructure. If something can't be around and doesn't have that long-term sustainability and doesn't have real demand and paying users, you're going to see them go away, or the market cycle will immediately wash it away. And a lot of great projects that we work with, their crypto economics is designed specifically on real users and demand for their tokenomics. Ours is certainly the same, and I think that's one thing that we really want to make sure we can think about as an ecosystem is like, how do we make sure everyone's measuring the right metrics so that we get less of that junk in between.
I agree with that. I think there is quite a bit of infrastructure in place, and I think it's expanding where it needs to. I think in the medical field, as we were talking earlier, I think that's a great, I think it's very nascent still, like blockchain-wise, and I think that there's going to be a lot of amazing discoveries and revelations here. Okay, so we only have a few minutes left, so I'll ask a question, 2 questions to you guys, and then you guys can each answer. So I would love for the audience, maybe you can answer one area that you're bullish on or quietly bullish on, maybe, and thinking about 5 years from now, which type of ecosystem wins in blockchain?
I think the real world asset is real estate. So far, is real estate, art, and the other things is the start to engage with the practical ownership and tokenizing. But at the 5 years, the more like yacht or your identity and the individual person who has a value, financial value, then is the connect with the blockchain technology. Then I think the real world asset is the more looking for the collaborate and engagement for the blockchain and crypto world.
Cool. There?
Yeah, I think I'm the most bullish on content integrity and content integrity plus blockchain because so many properties and so many companies building in the blockchain space really have this great verification layer. And I spent more than a decade dealing with disinformation, misinformation, content on the web, how to verify. And also, when you think about KYC or users, there's nothing more important than that. And I think this is going to be more and more important as we think about AI systems, what's real, what's not, where data is stored, whether that came from the source, how creators are compensated, how artists are compensated, the list goes on. But I think that's really a place where the public will actually see crypto shine the most, is that verification layer. I think what what kind of communities will survive the most are the ones that have the right DNA of most passionate people, and not the ones that are there, farming for rewards. Every crypto community kind of goes through this cycle where early on they have to filter their own community.
Of course.
And sometimes it's a game where, obviously investors want to see certain numbers, but I do think that that's really the pure of it. If you get the right quality people in a community that are active and really care about building together, they feel like there's a fair governance structure for how they participate. I think that's when you see the best innovation come through, because there's a lot of excitement for talented people wanting to join other talented people to build meaningful, impactful things together.
I love that. And Remy, real quick before you answer, kind of Clara, to your point with this is, I don't know if anybody in here is a parent or has, Gen Alpha kids. I do. And they question everything. These kids in this generation are raised to say their first thing in their mind, it's not what we think, right? At least I don't think, is this real or is this fake? Is this AI or not? Because it's just so recent to us. But in their world, this is, they question everything, right? And so the KYC, the real world, identity stuff, I do agree. And I think that is going to come up with this next upcoming generation as it grows here. So I think that's very interesting. Cool. Remy, we'll close it out with you.
I think a part of what Clara just said resonates with me a lot. What we're doing at Nuco is we're looking at a massive change in the way that content is created. And because of that, there is a natural democratization of people who can tell their stories, who can get what previously would just be writing. You could potentially write a novel. You can now make a film. You can make a video game. You can make a livable experience. You can make a character that someone could form a real feeling relationship with. And unlocking this new kind of creative atmosphere, our current method for any of these creators to monetize is either to not, to try to go viral and get some payout from Elon or from YouTube, or we have this ecosystem right now of creator coins. But I think that there is something beyond the ability for this new era of IP creator, this new era of storyteller that is going to be born from this AI, is not just for them to earn on their own, but for them to be able to create a network out of the story that they're trying to tell, and to tell that story with the people who love it. When you look at any growing IP or any really large IP, the fandom lives in fanfic and in fan art, and when the tooling that you use to create the IP itself is democratized to the point that any of the other people in the community that like that story could build that along with you. Ecosystems around being able to harness that value and secure those types of communities is something that I'm really interested in, and I'm obviously bullish on, because that's
same. Well, thank you guys, Juan, Clara, and Remy. Thank you guys so much for taking the time today. Thank you guys for sticking around and hanging with us and listening to us, and hope everybody comes back for day 2 tomorrow.